that. Would you mind introducing yourself?
Yeah, my name is Mark Krantz, and I'm a long-standing member of the Socialist Workers Party, and I'm from the Jewish religion background.
Okay.
And I'm particularly interested in speaking about and advocating the cause of justice for the Palestinian people.
I see. Would you say that with your Jewish background, I would say, do you think it confers you maybe a unique perspective on the Israeli question?
Yeah. Well, I'm certainly not the only Jewish person in this country or in America who is opposed to the actions of the Israeli government, what I would call sort of Israeli worship Zionism. We're opposed to that. It's not just me. There are many Jews in this country. But, Jewish people have a particular obligation to speak up.
Yes.
Because what is happening in Israel or being done to the Palestinians by the Israeli army and government apparently is being done in our name, in the name of all Jews across the world. And it's not true that all Jews across the world think that this is right.
So do you think that the Jews have a duty to speak up regarding the situation?
Yeah, a greater duty than others, yeah.
I see. It's interesting because in recent times there's been a lot of conflating anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism.
Sure. Yeah.
So I think it is quite important for the leaders or just members of the Jewish community to speak up.
There is a big effort to try and conflate the two. Now, anti-Semitism is something that I was brought up understanding about when I found out about the Holocaust, when things happened to me at school. They happened to me and I was picked on. Why? Because of my religion. Something that I was born with, not because of what's happening about disputes over land over there. If it's to do with the land, it's a question of Zionism. If it's to do with the religion, it's Semitism, and if it's against the religion, it's anti-Semitism.
I see. Yeah. You mentioned earlier the BDS boycott, divestment sanctions. Do you think this can bring about real, lasting change in Israel's policy?
I think it is and can be a stimulus to assist with the political change that's needed in the area. And the boycott, divestment and sanctions movement may appear to some people it's a little, boycott movement. What's Israel got to worry about? Israel and the Israeli government and the Israeli cabinet and the Israeli generals are taking the BDS movement very, very seriously because they see themselves losing political support around the world, and the BDS, it has some impact in terms of the economy, but the bigger impact is the political impact. No longer is there, yes, everyone in the world supports whatever Israel does.
Yes.
Increasingly, less and less people support it.
To follow up on this, you mentioned earlier your family was supporting because the history was supporting Israel's and Israel's policy. Do you think the perception of Israel has changed with the younger generations?
Absolutely. Don't take my word for it. Take the pro-Israeli people who do all the propaganda. They do all these questionnaires asking thousands of people, what do you think? They do it every year. And they've charted how support for Israel is going down and down and down. Still very lot of support with older generation. Younger generation less. And then the generation after them even less.
I see.
And particularly in America as well, very, very strong increasing rejection of support for Israel amongst Jewish youth in America. Jewish youth in America are like, Black Lives Matter, Palestinian Lives Matter. They're moving this way.
I see.
Yeah.
To follow up on America, so you're saying that at the grassroots level, the perceptions have changed. Do you still retain your optimism in the wake of Donald Trump's victory? Because he is a self-avowed supporter of Israel, though he might have made some. Well, he has shared an anti-Semitic quote on Twitter. So do you still retain your optimism?
The likes of Trump don't bring any optimism to us in the world. They bring horror and disbelief and terror and, oh my God, what is going on? But although Trump is the leader, he's only been in nearly a year, and there's a lot of opposition to him from inside America and across the world. So I think the elites are absolutely wedded to Israel. And let's be honest, Hillary Clinton she also is a big supporter of Israeli. But the people, the youth, the minorities have a different view.
I see. So I'm sorry, Getting back to this, we were mentioned earlier before being on camera. So do you think that popular support can really overcome the vested interests in the Middle East?
Yes, I mean, the BDS campaign is a campaign in the West. It's about universities, it's about unions, it's on the student union campuses, it's something that people do. We're not going to buy that in the shops and everything else. But the other resistance is the resistance of the Palestinian people themselves. Yes. And they have had wave after wave of resistance and struggle. There is a question, and it's been talked about, will there be a third intifada? I don't know. The BDS alone is not going to change the world, but the BDS movement with the resistance inside Palestine and the support for that resistance elsewhere, well, we've got possibilities of changing the situation.
Do you think to bring about a change in the Middle East and Palestinian situation, would there need to be a change in leadership in Palestine?
Like amongst Palestinian leadership?
Yes.
It is for the Palestinian people to decide which leaders they want and who they want to follow.
Of course.
They were told they had to have in Gaza elections, and these elections were overseen by international observers. I think John Kerry from America is one of them, and they said they're free and fair elections. Hamas won. Oh my God, says America. Oh, this is terrible, says Israel. You're terrorists, we won't recognize you. So they have a particular view of democracy. So when people voted in Gaza for Hamas, they didn't want what was going on. They wanted a change.
Yes.
There has been no elections for the leadership of the Palestinian Authority. Elections should have happened as part of their constitution. They have not had elections, even though the leader Abbas is, I think, in his 80s.
Yes.
There are some who are aspirant to lead the Palestinians in the Palestinian Authority and say we're not going to just collaborate with the Israelis. We don't even get the false promise of two states anymore. Why are we handing over our youth to the Israeli army so they put them in prison? So there is a conflict within about which way forward. I would favour a Palestinian leadership that would put resistance back on the agenda. But I'm not Palestinian and I'm not there. It is for them to. But if whatever there is, I would support justice for the Palestinians.
Of course. Regarding the anti-Zionism, I'm back to this. Sometimes it's been conflated with anti-Semitism, and other times anti-Zionism has been used as also a pretext, as an excuse for anti-Semitism. What would you say is the best way to dissociate the two?
Well, I think that what is so dangerous about this conflagration is this. We live in Europe, and in Europe there are some very dark clouds of real anti-Semitic parties who are getting elected and getting mass support in Hungary.
Yes.
Now in Austria, and in Germany, and in France with Le Pen.
And the Front National.
And the Front National. Look, I think it was 2 years ago, there was a march in France, and it was in opposition to gay marriage. And on that march, a chant went up, kill, kill, kill the Jews. That has never been chanted in a French city on the street since before 1945, Anti-Semitism is a really serious threat. To start to undermine an understanding of that and say, oh, it's about what's going on. It's not. This is happening in Europe. And we've got politicians in Britain, people like Tommy Robinson, who are anti-Muslim, but they're anti-Muslim first and then they want to go for the Jews afterwards. So let's be clear, when there's anti-Semitism, we're going to unite and fight against that anti-Semitism. But justice for the Palestinians is not about hatred of the Jews. It's saying that these people are being treated badly, which is an understatement, and that they should have more rights, they should have their own country, they should have hopes for their future, their children should not face, discrimination, their kids should not be shot on the way to school, which is happening every day. 2 Palestinian children are killed every week, So the two things are very, very different. One is about the book, the Jewish book of the Bible, and the other is about Israel's land and the more land that they want. And I was brought up in the Jewish religion. I read the Holy Torah from cover to cover, and I listened very carefully, and the word Balfour was never mentioned. The word state of Israel is never mentioned. It's the land of Israel. That's not the state of Israel. So there is no religious justification for Zionism. The Jewish religion has been 5,500 or more years old. Zionism is 120 years old. It's not been there forever.
And as you said, irrelevant prior to 1945.
Yeah, And the Jewish religion has said for thousands of years that the Jews live all over the world, and one day the Messiah will come and we will return to Israel. Not a pro-Zionist militia will liberate us, and not a British, lord. No. The Messiah, this is a religious view.
The second coming.
Yeah, the second coming for Jesus, the first coming for Jews of religious view, yeah.
Yes.